I would like to welcome you to the WPC webinar, Mechanization Levels for the Global Potato Industry. My name is Burkhard Kulmann. I'm working as a product specialist for potato equipment at Grimme in Germany. So I am Grimme in Germany as a manufacturer for potato equipment, sugar beet, vegetable. And I'm working for Grimme since 20 years now. I collected a lot of experience worldwide in potato fields from the United States, about over Africa, India, China, and Europe. And so I would like to invite you to the 11th World Potato Congress 2021 in Dublin from the 31st of May to the 3rd of June. So in lovely Dublin, Cecil, if you are there. Okay, we would like to start the webinar. Yes. Mechanization levels for the global potato industry. So first of all, what is our global challenge? I would like to start with that. As you can see, we start from the hand hoe, starting with horses, then could be windrows in between, then from harvesters up to self-propelled harvesters. And what is our global challenge? Our global challenge is that the agriculture has to feed the world, so the population is expanding, so the food production must rise. So if we look, for example, in 1927, we were only 2 billion people over here in the world. And in 2011, we already rise up to 7 billion people. And at the moment, I think we're around about at 8 billion people, but our earth is not growing. So that means that the global food production must increase by around about 70% to 2050. So how can we do that, and what is our challenge with that? That the number of a farmer, how many people a farmer is feeding, has to rise up, and already it is going up very strong. In 1950s, one farmer was feeding around about 15 people, and nowadays in 2020, so that one farmer is feeding around about 200 people, and for future term, so it even have to get more. How can we get there? So the main challenge for the future, improving the efficiency in the agriculture with the existing growing area. And even the growing area is not existing, is also getting smaller and smaller. So agricultural land per head of world's population, in the 70s, it was 0.3 hectares for each head. And in 2050, it will be only about the half of it. So that's another big point. We have to get more efficient. How can we do that? So we have to work on the most important crops. As you can see on the right hand side in the top picture, rice is still the most important crop, wheat and maize. And so we want to talk about potatoes. So potatoes is the number 4 in the main crops which are feeding the world. The potato is one of the most important crops for the human nutrition. And Jacques Diouf said a few years ago, the general director of the FAO, the potato is a front line in the fight against the world hunger and poverty. So why is a potato that important for us? Or why potato at all? I want to give you some facts. So the global crop, it's a global crop which is grown in more than 120 countries worldwide. So you can grow potatoes, not everywhere, but nearly everywhere. So you have here an example when people are growing potatoes in Peru, which is about 4,000 meters above sea level. And on the other hand, also potatoes growing about 8 meters below sea level in the Netherlands, in the northeast border. So the potato is very flexible and you can grow it, yeah, very high and also below sea level. The potato can produce more food on less land than any other major crop. So in comparison to wheat again, so 85% of the plant of a potato may constitute edible food for humans. And in comparison to grain, so that will be around about 50%. It's a healthy product. Why it's a healthy product? It's high protein content, it's low fat content, and it's rich on vitamin C. So the potato is adaptable and a strong plant, as we have seen already on the slide before. So we have a long harvesting window. If storage facilities are not available, so it can still be served as a daily dish over in a longer term. So for example, here over in Europe, you can harvest potatoes. The early potatoes are starting round about now in June, and then you can harvest them up to November. So it can be also, if you not have the possibility to store the potatoes, so then you have the chance also have a long daily dish. The demand is still growing because we can make a lot of things out of potatoes. The variety and the usage of the potato product is huge. So there are many processing directions, just a few examples. So table potatoes, chips, or for fries, or even for starch for the industry. Now I would like to come a little bit to talk about the potato production worldwide. So the biggest manufacturer of potatoes is China. So in China, they're growing around about 90 million tons of potatoes. Then the second biggest player is India. India is rising up the last years a lot. So it's around about 48.5, so around about 50 million tons. And the next ones are the Russian Federation together with Ukraine. They also have around about 45 million tons. And the United States, it's with 20 million tons. And here in the center, I don't know if you can see my arrow. So here in the center in Germany, where I'm sitting right now. So we had in the 2018 round about 9 million tons. We had a very dry year in that year, 2018. So the standard average is round about 10 million tons. Mechanization levels of potato planting. So we start with a planting around the world. So I would like to set the question, how many people are required to plant 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? So what are the estimated values including filling the planter? So what do you guess? So these are the 4 levels which I like to talk about. It's on the top left-hand side. So planting by hand, bring the potatoes in the field by hand, and do the hilling by hand and all that on. I'm just wondering if we can try to make this, give you the answer on the Q&A. So what do you think, how many people do you need to plant 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? Has anybody an idea? So if you have an idea, so you can write it down in the Q&A. So 200, that's quite a lot. So we said, I will switch over again. We said round about 40 people are needed to plant 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour. So on the next point on the right-hand side, we have a very small 2-row planter, a light machine. So what do you think, how many people are needed to plant 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour with that machinery? Anybody an idea? Not 2. It's a little bit more, so we have to fill the planters, and so the potatoes came in with sacks and so on. So round about 6. So these are all estimated values. So we say around about 6. So then we come to the bottom left. On the bottom left-hand side, we have a 4-row planter with doing already the soil preparation with a GR300 in front of it, and is doing the planting and also the fertilizer and the hilling in the end. So any ideas how much is needed to plant 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? It's 2. So it's round about 2 people. And in the bottom right hand side, we see a 12-row planter on a tractor with tracks with a big hopper, so you can plant long distances without refilling the bunker. So the estimated value is round about 0.6. So you can see that we can already get much better on planting from 40 people to 0.6. So we can get more efficient and hopefully also can get better quality. So the next step I would like to talk about is the mechanization levels in potato harvest. When we start on this point now, so mechanization levels in potato harvest. So is everybody done by hand? So manual work, the digging with the hand hooves, the picking, so collect the potatoes from the ground, separation. So we talk about a positive separation. You just take the potatoes out of the clods and the homes, and the transport from the sacks out of the field. So that will be where we start from, where we all started from. And then we come to level 2 on the potato harvest, and that's the good part on especially on harvesting. So you can do that step by step. So for example, you can say, okay, I would like to start with the work done by machines, with the digging, so with windrowers, so you can get the potatoes out of the ground and then collect it by hand. So that's already a big value. And then the picking and separation has to be done, transport of the field, everything manually. And level 3, so the level 3 is, the level 3 is with a harvester. So, and with a harvester, you can see the digging, the picking, a little bit of the separation is done still manual. If you see on the top hand right, you see a 2-row bunker machine with picking stuff at the picking stable, so they get the last clods out of the machine, but it's already much more comfortable. Or a self-propelled harvester on the bottom left, or on the right hand bottom, so you can see this is 2 6-row windrowers bringing 12 rows into 4 rows in the middle, and then the harvester is taking 16 rows at once and filling directly on the lorry. So we come to the overview. So the step 1, everything is done everything is done manually. Then we start digging is done mechanically, and the rest is done still manually. Or when we come to the harvesters, so the harvesters are all, everything is done by machines. So we come to our next slide. So the question is again, how many people are required to harvest 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? So what do you think? I give you some pictures again you can think about. So how many people are required to harvest 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? So the question is again, what do you think when we see in the top hand left? So we do the hand digging with hand hooves or with shovels, then taking the potatoes out from the ground and putting them into bags and get them out of the field. So what do you think? So it's round about 250. So 250 people are needed to harvest 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour. And when we come to the right-hand top picture, so we do the windrowing, which is the first step into the mechanization. So what do you think? How many people are needed to harvest with windrowers 1 hectare of potatoes and then picking them up by hand? 25. So in the bottom left, we see a machine which is a 4-row self-propelled harvester. So no picking people at all on that machine. It's doing the separation and everything on its own. And you can unload directly to the trailers. What do you think? What numbers are needed, or how many people are needed to harvest 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour? It's 3. And now we come to the example, which is machinery from the United States, from our daughter company, from Sputnik. So we have again 2 6-row windrowers, which putting these 12 rows in the center. They even have 8-row windrowers, so you can rise up to 20 rows overall. So what do you think? How many people are needed to harvest 1 hectare in 1 hour with this combination of different machinery? 1 to 4, I can see in the Q&A. Yeah, it's very good. It's round about 1 person is needed to get all that work done, to harvest 1 hectare of potatoes in 1 hour. Another example is the mechanization levels. Just hold on. We would like to talk about levels of potato grading and storage. And now we can't talk about 1 hectare an hour anymore. So we have to talk about tons per hour. And we say, okay, the average, the big sum is round about 30 tons of potatoes in from 1 hectare. So how many people are required to store 30 tons of potatoes in 1 hour? So here are our pictures again. So in the top hand, the 2 pictures in the top hand left. So we see the potatoes were bought all into bags. The bags has to get from the field to the end of the field, load them onto the trailer, and then unload them from the trailer by hand again, and then bring it into all the levels of the storage hall. So by hand. So they bring all these potatoes in bags on their shoulder upstairs in the different levels. So what do you think? How many people are needed to store 30 tons of potatoes in 1 hour? It's round about 120. So 120 people. Okay, now we're getting the next step to doing the storage not on sacks anymore. So we can dump it into a receiving hopper. So what do you think? What's the next step on that? And you can do the separating of the cluts and so on later on a conveyor. So it's round about 30. Then we're coming to an example over here from Europe. So they're filling the potatoes into boxes. So via a receiving hopper, and then it's filling the boxes directly, the wooden boxes with a GBF. So it's in between 10 or 4. We said round about 2 or 3 people are needed. You need a forklift driver to make all the movements. And then on the bottom right-hand side, so you can see a store loader. So they can dump all the potatoes into the receiving hopper. The receiving hopper is doing the separation, and then the potatoes are going into the line, and from that line it's going over the conveyors onto the store loader, and then you have an open floor, so you can store all the potatoes directly in the hall. So what do you think, how many people are needed to store that? 30 tons of potatoes in 1 hour. So we said round about 0.5. So if you got all that very good combined and you can run all that on flow control, so then that will be a good institution that you can run with only half of a person who's doing a little bit organization. And yeah, so he can fill the 30 tons in 1 hour. On the other hand, so that was one point or one view, is that we're talking about the mechanization levels. So how can we go more efficient? And on the other hand, so how can we improve saleable yield? So how can we improve it? So we have, I would like to talk about 3 topics: how you can improve saleable yield. So economic efficiency, we already talked about that. Sustainability, and on the other hand, also the digitalization is giving us more effort, how we can get more effective and can, also get products better to the market. I would like to explain it. So economic efficiency, so first of all, so by speeding up and enlarging machines, minimize unproductive time. So that's what we saw the examples before. So you start from hand digging, then a windrower, then a harvester, and at least we can see that with 2 big windrowers and a harvester, you can get taking 20 rows at once, or a combination of separate working steps. This is an example from the planting machinery. So we do the soil separation in the front. We have fertilizer boxes. We can put chemicals on the potatoes. We can do the planting and we can do the hilling. So the combination of several working steps while planting, and also probably on other steps. So by an improvement concept of transport and cleaning, so getting to bigger transport units, that you have less downtime and less tractors and trailers on the road with a clean loader, for example. That's also a big advantage, that you can leave the soil and the dirt in the field already. You don't get it to the farm. By electric software to support for the driver, human machine interface, and also to autonomize documentation, so that lots of things done automatically and it's easy to use. And also increase accuracy, reduce losses. Here's an example: section control while planting, so that we don't have overlays. We plant only in these areas where we want to plant, and we have no losses while planting, less proving, and this is also improving the sustainability. Sustainable solutions, what possibilities are here? So best protection against soil erosion. So this is an example, we call it Terra Protect. It's a diking shear, which is making small dikes, transverse dams in the ridges, so you can keep the water in the storage, to keep the water in the lines, so we don't have pictures like this, so this does not happen. Mechanical weed control. So weed control is achieved using cutter elements, so that the potato is not in competition with weeds, and so you need less chemicals. And now this is a typical example from Europe. In Europe at the moment, we have a big discussion about homesication with dickwad or reglone. So that means that the farmers are looking for alternatives to home destruction with toppers again, and with other chemicals, a combination of toppers and other chemicals like quick down or shark, for example. So saleable yield, understanding the wastage. So there's an interesting point, and I think that's also a point where we all can get better. So when we see these, remember these pictures we saw before from hand hooves, so digging by hand, the step to a good windrower with a good depth control, with good digging shears and sieving webs and so on. So what do you guess how much more saleable yield you can achieve with that? Any ideas? So there was a trial in Uganda where they measured it from hand tools, and afterwards they dig everything out with a windrower. So, and with this first step into the mechanization, so you can have 38% more potatoes out of the ground, so less losses which you leave in the ground, and you have also 90% less damaged potatoes. And on the other hand, so where are also big losses are food losses in the agriculture, in the distribution, in the post harvest, in the industry, the consumption, the processing. They are all making losses. So there was a very interesting number from my point of view about how many losses are in the European Union in tons, which are food losses in the European Union. So it was in all 27 countries, they produce 126 million tons of food waste each year. So to get a better impression about this big number, so every person making food losses of 250 kilograms. That's also something, we have to think about, and everybody has to get on his own nose how he can improve that and how he can make that better. Digitalization, I would like to just give a short example with track and trace. How can we get better to saleable yields, so to make it more interesting for the consumers, to give them more a good emotion when he buys it. So what does he want to know? He wants to know where is it planned, where does it come from, and so on. And with our digitalization or digital opportunities we have at the moment, so we can start where are the potatoes planted, so we know the field where it is planted, when is it planted, and also when is it harvested, what time, what were the weather conditions, then when it is getting into the store, how is it stored, at which temperatures, and when is it going into the to the processor, and he's making the chips, and at the end the consumer in the shop can have a barcode, and so you know exactly so where his chips coming from, what is where is it grown, what variety of potato it has been, when it's harvested, where is it stored, and where is the processor. So you also can see how many miles this potatoes has made before. So that's also a big chance on the digitalization side. So I think, yeah, I'm coming to the end now. And so this is the last slide. So we are prepared for the future. The question, so are you prepared? So hopefully, yes. And that is the end of my presentation. I want to say thank you to all the sponsors, which you can see now here on this slide. Now I think we can start with some questions. So if you have questions, you can put it in the Q&A now. And yeah, thank you very much for your attention. Oops. So the first question which came up was, what machines do you have for the Indian conditions where land holdings are small? So for the Indian market, we working together, we are making a joint venture with the company Shaktiman. And so with this brand together, we building also machinery for the small market. not for small market, for small fields, and light machines for tractors up with 40, 50 horsepower. So we have, also some people working for Grimme India. So you can find that on our homepage. So if you're interested, Rajesh, sorry if I spelled that wrong. So you can contact these guys and they can support you on that point. The second question which came up, how can you purchase and service your equipment in most countries? Yes, I think we can do that. We have round about 15 daughter companies all over the world. So we got Grimme India, we got Grimme Turkey, we got Grimme China. So we had a lot of daughter companies in different areas. And we have sales representatives and they can give you a hand and support you. And so probably one interesting story is we had now with our Corona pandemic, we're not allowed to go in so many countries anymore. So we had to set up a machine on Hawaii, which was very interesting. And so we set up the machine via a Skype interview and supported these guys over there also online about a Skype interview. So that was also, and that's getting better and better. But in most countries, so we setting up the machines, so our service guys are coming there, and so we try to support you as best as possible. Okay. Just hold on a second, I have to read all the questions. So foreign material is a major issue in some countries. What kind of equipment do you have to remove it? In most countries, we can deliver a full machinery, but in some cases, we also have deliver only, we have to leave some parts out. But for example, into China, then we get our company, Grimme China, and they will then complete the whole machine and put everything together. Another question came up. What are the impacts of large machinery on soil quality and future yields? Yeah, that's a very good question. So if we get the machines getting wider and wider, so we're getting more soil compaction, but also on this point, we are learning day by day. So for this example, we're doing some trials with our company Schmiede One. So they're building a small single row harvester on tracks. So with very less soil compaction. On the other hand, we're doing some trials with controlled traffic so that we compact only on the same lines all day. So to reduce the soil protection on that point. And but it's a good question and we're still working on it. We're trying to make our machines as light as possible and the tires as big as possible. So we're getting as less soil compaction as necessary. What is the expected time to harvest 1 hectare and what capacity using the machinery you described? So the expected time depends, what system you are using. So we saw with a windrower and picking up by hand, it was 25 people for 1 hectare. With a bunker, so it was 3, 4. And with windrowing and the big machine, so it was 0.5. How long is the optimal period for harvesting in North America, Europe? For example, farmers like to harvest over a week, a few days, etc. That's a good question too. So it depends on the weather conditions. Here in Europe or especially now we can talk about Germany, for example, they start already in June with early potatoes. But if they're doing processing potatoes, for example, so they start in the 15th of September and up to the beginning of November. So that's a main period of 6 weeks time where the main harvesting is done over here in Europe. A question from India again. We in India need urgently a small harvester which can pick up tubers and load into trolley, pulled by tractor, maybe stationary or moving side by side the harvester. Yes, we working in India now with our company Grimm India for 3-4 years. It's a very huge market, and we are working on different systems or in discussion with different systems. So I think on this point again, the best point is to contact our guys from Shaktiman and Grimm India. So you can find the contacts on our homepage. And so these people can give you information about which systems and when they are available. Do you have next question is, do you have a financing options for farmers in Kenya? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. Over here in Europe, we work together with the, we call it the German leasing in Kenya, but we also got a responsible guy, a sales guy, which is responsible for Kenya. So you should contact him. Once again, so sorry I can't answer directly, but so you can contact via our homepage. So you put the your question down there, and then they can give you a hand on that. Another question: do you have a representative in Africa? Yes, we have a representative in South Africa. His name is JP Smith. So you can contact him also directly. He is living in South Africa, but he's also belonging to support other countries in Africa. Do we have mechanization? Next question, do we have mechanization for conducting experiments on small areas? Yes, we have in some cases. We also do some special machinery, special options for these guys. In some cases, so Grimme company is doing this special things, or in other cases also our dealers are doing special options for special needs. So in this case, also again, so you have to contact us via our homepage. So where you can, what are your needs, and then we will see what machinery we can offer and what special things we can offer too. Oh, yeah, now I get a little help from my colleague Ed. So Grimme UK has a tri-plot windrower. So yeah, you are right. They did a windrow, a single windrower, I think it was for ADHB. So you can contact also our colleagues at Grimme UK, so they can support you and what's possible on this hand. Another question is from Indonesia. So potatoes are usually grown in the highland in Indonesia. What equipments are suitable for hilly, mountainous areas? Yeah, that's also a very good question. It depends what angle do you have, and in the most fields. So we harvesting in Scotland, for example. levels up to 15, 18 degrees. But so it depends on the condition, what is the site leveling, what is the steepness, and so it's very difficult to give you an answer. So we need a little bit more information. What are your levels and steepness in these areas? How big the fields? How big these tractors, and so on. All right. Any other questions? So thank you very much for your time and for your attention. So hopefully you enjoyed the webinar. So if you have some questions later on, no problem. So you can contact us, and yeah, have a nice day. Thank you very much.